Marketing should not live in just marketing ever. Like all the students, whether finance, accounting, IS, whatever, they all have to take my class. And I'm like, I don't care who you are, you will do some type of marketing or you will work with marketing if it's done well. Everyone is a little bit of a marketer.
Welcome to another episode of the Growth League podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Clark, and today I am with my guest, Brianna Miller. She is the Director of Marketing at Protenus. Brianna, formerly I guess your background has been very digital and demand generation focused, and I'm looking forward to learning more about that. But you're an expert, some may say, specializing in creating and implementing inbound marketing strategies for small and large companies. Currently, she is the marketing director, as I mentioned, at Protenus. And as you've evolved into this role, I imagine there's a lot of great experiences that you can share about building and managing teams, setting the direction for the marketing program. So I'll leave you to share more about that with us. But Protenus, from what I've come to understand, supports healthcare organizations, hospitals, clinics, health systems, by supporting their risk elimination and compliance efforts. A lot of strategic initiatives woven into that as well, like reducing costs, maintaining organizational reputation, etc. So welcome, Brianna. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk all things Protenus and marketing. I am probably a marketing addict. If that is a thing, I would definitely qualify. But yeah, you did a great job at talking about what Protenus is. And really, as a company, we are focused on empowering healthcare, so hospitals, health systems, to eliminate risk, like you said. And we do that through patient privacy monitoring and drug diversion monitoring, specifically leveraging artificial intelligence. So the easiest way to explain those two things I usually tell people is making sure that people who aren't supposed to be looking at your patient records aren't, and making sure that drugs get where they are, is kind of the simplest way of kind of explaining what that does. But it's working with the systems at the hospital to make sure that they're staying compliant and protecting their patients.
So thank you for simplifying it, because for neophytes like me, I may not understand that is a problem. Wrong people seeing your records, I think wrong drugs getting administered makes sense. But so how long, what was like the evolution of Protenus, or sort of the origin? Where did it start? When did it start? Why did it start?
Yeah, so it was actually founded in 2014 by our current CEO, Nick Culbertson, and then Robert Lord, who was one of the co-founders. He's now on our board, and started in Baltimore, and it's quickly grown. We're very unique in, I think, how quickly we've grown, and we've stayed very true to who we are and making sure that we are about the data and the data integrity and properly integrating with the systems, and not just saying we do AI, but actually really truly doing AI and implementing it in systems and training the healthcare and hospital systems how to use the tool. We've really grown a lot. There was an amazing team, I will say, before I came on. I've been here about 2 years. And they did some crazy good startup marketing, which is not my specialty. So I entirely applaud them for doing that, because that is a wild, wild west to do. And they really just got the name out there, and we're trying to improve, honestly, patient experience at the end of the day, because everything that the hospital is doing, even though it may not seem like this would affect patient experience, the patients want to feel not only safe when they go there for the treatment, but that their data is protected, that people aren't seeing things they're not supposed to. You don't want your neighbor who works at the hospital just looking at your data. So I really love that, and it's such a cool company. I know ever since, like a family, but everyone's really close and really dedicated. We all kind of joke that when you get you interview for Protenus, it's like, is everyone really that happy? Or it's like, is it okay? But you get here and you realize everyone really does love what they do. And I feel like that's a spiel, but I had
No,
that
that's
thought
great.
process when I was being hired. And then I got here and I was like, no, everyone really is this
It
nice.
matches up. Well,
Yeah,
that's
they
always a
weren't
nice
lying to me.
surprise.
They weren't lying.
What was, if you can remember back, what was the triggering event or the prompt or the reason why you were thinking about, leaving Terra Recon, but more importantly than that, what drew you to
Yeah.
Protenus?
Oh, that's a great question. So yes, I was at Terracon, which is also in the healthcare space, this medical imaging software, and that got a little into AI. And I was there, I want to say for 8 years. I'd have to double check my LinkedIn. And I had a great team. But at that point, it really kind of built up this engine, I guess you could say, it was driving leads. Our sales team was doing really, really well. I felt very confident in where I was going to be leaving them and up for kind of another challenge. Because when I originally went into Terra Recon, they didn't have that really well established like lead generation process. They were still building out their digital marketing because healthcare sometimes is a little behind the times in marketing. And I wanted to do that again. I really enjoyed it. So in talking to Protenus, I saw a huge opportunity there because they were just past that initial big startup phase where, we're getting the initial customers and building the initial product. And now we're at the phase where we're very established and we have all of our customers and we need very clear strategies and process and to dive into the data and optimize. And so I saw it as a really fun challenge. And then also just during the interview process, I really loved all the people I met. And again, I joke, I'm like, what are these? They're just drinking the Kool-Aid over there, but it seems really good. And I'm really glad I took the leap and decided
awesome.
to join the team.
That's great. I'm going to start with a question I ask a lot later, actually, in normal interviews, and but I want to start with the hard one first, and then kind of get to the easier ones.
All right, let's
go. So, as it relates to problems or challenges, I first want to look through the lens of what is the biggest thing that you've experienced as a challenge recently, not within marketing Protenus' services or capturing available market share, but as a marketing leader. Maybe it's a challenge that you're going through right now. What is the hardest part for you fulfilling this newish role of leading the marketing function of the team? What's the biggest challenge on your mind?
Another great question. And I like that you're just throwing the hard balls this way. So I think that it kind of goes to sales and marketing alignment. And that's a lot where I live in my current role is how can marketing work and help fulfill sales needs and vice versa. So it's a lot of right now looking at the data, looking at our market share, looking at our lead generation process and our sales process. Where are the areas that we can speed up the funnel because we're in B2B, so we all have very long sales cycles. So how can we improve that? The stages, the time in each stage, and then from there also, how can we take our budget that we have and best use it by looking at what are the sources of our leads and our opportunities so that we can say this drives the most pipeline versus this closes the most pipeline. And that's where our marketing team should focus our efforts. And so a lot of that and a lot of attribution to go along with that, because like I said, long sales cycle. So, I'm hitting every company with 15 20 campaigns over the course of the whole sales cycle, so trying to figure out what is the thing that's driving this. So
that's great. It's a scientific experiment, isn't it, based on data?
It is. I'm less the creative, but maybe actually I should better say a different type of creative, because it's not designing a graphic, it's figuring out the strategy and then being creative and designing the strategy to reach those goals.
Totally. Yeah. Creative doesn't mean, fancy slide decks and graphics and logos all the time. It's creativity applied to a process or a system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's great. Now back to my planned first question. In this environment that you just described, what would you say, putting yourself on the spot a little bit, what would you say your one or two superpowers are as a marketing leader that others would say, hey, Brianna is this. But what's your red cape as you go into this environment?
Oh, that's a great question.
You can brag. You don't have to be
Okay.
Or I guess tools you rely on, knowing that like I feel very strong
Yeah.
in this, and so I'm going to lead with this. And
I would say, I mean, one of the tools that I rely on heavily, and I would honestly probably not take a job unless they use this tool, is HubSpot. And the amount that I say that, I feel like
no. Yeah. So when I say tools, we'll get to those types of tools. When I'm saying tools, sorry, I'm talking like, what are your superpowers?
My superpowers.
Yeah. That would be cool to have a personal superpower of being HubSpot.
I might say that. But it's probably my superpower then maybe would be organization, honestly. We have a lot of moving parts. We're a small team, and we're putting out a crazy amount of content and campaigns and working across departments to try to, assist them in what they need while also analyzing everything. And so there are 1,000 things always happening at once. And I would say my superpower is always having the pulse of what that is, what's happening. So whatever projects, I mean, right now we have like 3 webinars we're planning. I have what emails are going out this week, what tools the sales team needs, some market analysis going on. And I think that would be it. They know they can come to me and be like, where are we with this project? I'll know.
So your team appreciates that greatly. I would imagine with so many things to do, only X amount of capacity, they can look to their leader to provide a little bit of calm and steady through the chaos. Is that what I'm hearing?
I definitely try my best to do that. And our CMO, who I report, she does a great job too of, keeping our overarching strategy and making sure everything's aligned. And I think she can rely on me very well to make sure she's got that strategy and I'm making sure we got that implementation happening and everybody's good to go with questions answered.
Cool. Well, help paint the picture. What does your team look like today? Like, who do you work with? How do you, who do you kind of manage, for lack of a better term, or tell me about the team structure?
So we are a small team, like I mentioned. So we have our chief marketing officer, and then I report to our chief marketing officer as the director of marketing. Below me, I have our strategic marketer, who does a lot with me with our ABM and working with our sales team. We have a product marketer, a graphic designer, and an events manager. So we are a small but mighty team.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot of, it's hard to say sometimes like who's in charge of what, because everyone's so skilled that it's kind of all hands on deck a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I love our small but mighty team.
You told me, you said earlier, the distinction between, these weren't your exact words, but number of leads in the pipeline, but then also kind of quality of leads in the pipeline. How do you as a team, there's a number of different KPIs, I imagine, that you use to determine if you're on track or successful. Yep. But when it all boils down, what is the role or the accountability of you and your small and mighty team? If you can look at each other at the end of a period and say, yep, we did it. Doesn't matter what else fell through the cracks. What is that thing?
Yeah. So we live a lot in metrics for sure. So we have, and it's one of the things I love about Protenus is that we are very metrics focused. So it's not just throwing, stuff against the wall and hoping it works. We make very great decisions on the data.
Yeah.
But for our team, one of our main ones is our marketing qualified leads and our sales qualified leads. So, and looking at those conversion rates. So I look at on a monthly, maybe more often, because it's like a game to me, looking at these data. This data is how many marketing qualified leads, how are they converting, their sources, and then also which ones, I'm looking at the same thing of the sales qualified leads, how many of those are converting into opportunities. So specifically those numbers and really the conversion rates. But then for our team, we have all the other metrics that drive up into those. So things like, website bounce rate, email click-through rate, our website traffic. Those are the ones that we're also measuring that we deem as, if those things are going well, then we'll be able to meet our marketing qualified lead goal And they should be quality to be able to meet all those other ones.
Got you. And you guys prioritize SQLs over MQLs at the end of the day. You would rather hit the SQL target, I imagine, than the MQL target.
Yes, but we do both. So we have a very clear, we backtrack everything basically.
Okay.
So I use, what is our pipeline goal, and then from there, I calculate, what is our average conversion rate of that? How many SQLs would I need? How many MQLs would I need based off of our goal conversion rates? So not specifically that SQLs are more because I have a goal, but I need so many MQLs in order, and I need them to convert at a certain rate in order to get to the SQL.
Gotcha.
So I'd love a 1-to-1, but that's just, they wouldn't be different things then. So.
Exactly. So for you guys, and companies have varying, definitions of MQL, SQL, but for you guys, what is the difference or the distinction between those two?
Yeah, definitely. So our marketing qualified leads are, in our view, and what I agree as a marketer, is something that is qualified by a couple different ways. The main way is through a scoring system. So that is our engagement, how many times they visit the website, they register for a webinar, download an ebook, things like that. They get a certain number of points. And when they get to that point threshold, I push them to our sales team. And that is a marketing qualified lead. Marketing in automation of some way has said, this person has shown interest in our company. Other ways are, demo request forms or stop by our booth at a trade show.
Right.
They go to our sales team. And then to move from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead, I always recommend for a company, that's where the human comes in. It shouldn't just be automation as much as we love automation.
Right.
We need a human to go in and say, this is a real person. And this person answered my phone calls and my emails and is probably going to be in the sales process looking to buy maybe in the next year or two. Every company sets a different criteria, but a specific criteria, basically automated scoring, and then a human saying, yes, please move this forward. And then they go to sales qualified lead. And then opportunity is once you have a lot of those questions answered, and they are like, yes, absolutely ready to move forward. I don't want to inflate pipeline. I don't want to inflate my numbers by just making opportunities. So keeping everything as real as possible is the best. And this is the same type of thing I did when I was at Terra Recon. So the process of creating each of these stages, when things move through each stage, because that's going to help you so much in figuring out what works and what doesn't in your marketing.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you for describing. I've seen scenarios where we're talking about sales and marketing integration, where the sales team will come in a lot earlier, and sometimes they'll wait all the way till it's like a for sure opportunity. For you guys, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, you will nurture all the way from sort of suspect to MQL to SQL, and then even to opportunity before integrating with this. Where does the integration happen for you?
Oh, yeah. So it kind of actually does happen at the MQL stage.
Okay.
So that's when I'm passing the contact to our sales team to get that human verification, and to our business development or sales development representatives. So that's where they're the initial front line of figuring out if these are legitimate or not. So, but I would say that we start there, but marketing also stays involved throughout the whole process.
Okay.
And again, this is the same, like, this is what I learned at Terra Recon, and then I've taken to Protenus is.
No, you bring up, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you bring up a good point, and I'm excited for this little bit of the conversation, because I think when too many times marketing says, hey, we generated the MQL, yours from here, instead of kind of being a holistic part of the process that happens downstream. So how does it work for you guys?
Yeah. So it has to be a constant working together, because with anything nowadays, it's kind of about the number of times you're engaging people. And so we stay in there, and we're still, as marketing, targeting people based off of their personas and their specific interactions. Even once that they get past to the sales team, they don't cease to exist for marketing anymore. We are still, hitting them. We work very closely with our sales team to make sure if they feel that a conversation should not be happening with marketing at that point in time, they want to keep it just with sales. But our sales team, I mean, they're also small and mighty, but and in a way, and that they only have so many hours in the day. So we try to use automation and like email nurturing based off personas and product interest to keep those leads engaged, whether it's an MQL or an SQL or an opportunity, so that they can best utilize their time.
Right. No, that's great. As shifting gears a little bit, as you've evolved into this role where you are now, you're the marketing director, you have a small and mighty team, and you're very organized, and they appreciate that. And what, describe a little bit in your unique case, what are the ways of working for you? What have you needed to learn or change about? Because before, demand generation, running digital marketing, you're very much in the weeds, turning the knobs, flipping the dials. How has your job, if at all, changed, and what have you learned through this evolution into the marketing director role?
So I think I have learned even more than I did in my previous role, like at Terra Recon, what would be the importance of that marketing and sales alignment. Not just that lead generation process, but also they have a lot of great insight into what the potential customer is saying and looking for. And those are the things that as marketers, we need to be listening to and getting constant feedback on of what are the webinar topics we should be doing? What are the blog posts we should be writing about? Right. Same with, I guess, our customer success team. The same type of alignment is the biggest thing. So not trying to kind of keep it all within our department. And sharing that information has also been a huge learning. So we are sharing that with the sales team, and they're giving information back. What email templates work? What subject lines are working? So sharing the knowledge. We are a team. We are not against each other. We both want to succeed. So I think that's been the biggest learning across this whole process.
Yeah. It sounds like you've adopted a strong role of facilitation of that feedback loop and that integration between the two parties, which is critical. And that's great. Yes. So, besides collecting a paycheck and what lights you up about Protenus today? Like, why do you care?
Why do I care? Well, from our, there's a couple.
It could be your team. It could be the
it's hard to pinpoint one. Definitely
you don't have to.
Yes, definitely my team. They are amazing, and I would say. But as Protenus is they're very encouraging of trying out new things, which is really important in marketing. So, when I'm looking at the data and coming up with new things, being able to throw out an idea and get a lot of support for let's try it. Let's see if it'll work. And I think that's across the board. They're really great at helping you develop into the role you want. So whether you might have a specific title, but if you really kind of want to go in a very specific direction, I feel like they do a really good job of that, because in the 2 years I've been here, I've been working with our CMO to get to where I'm at right now, because this is what has been interesting to me every day versus kind of just being stuck in what I thought I might be doing. But they really do support that. So I think that's probably one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that's really cool. Not every company is like that, where they care about the whole person, right? And their what their what their growth journey looks like. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. You told me a little bit about your team. One of the topics we like to ask, or I like to ask a lot about, is do you guys work with external partners of any type, anything within marketing?
We work with one company, but I would say 99% of what we do is in-house, honestly.
What about in past experiences?
Yes. I have a little bit. There was a little bit when I was at Terra Recon. I was actually agency side when I first started my career.
Interesting.
Yes, right out of college, was an account manager at a digital agency, and then became a strategist. So I kind of know both sides, which
Yeah.
is probably a good thing and a bad thing if you're working with me as an
Yeah.
agency.
Well, explain that a little bit, because what I was going to ask, and is what your perspective is, or your experiences on creating really strong, healthy client agency relationships. So perhaps you can lend or draw on your experience of being on that side. What would you define as some of the ways to ensure that it's a good marriage?
Yes. For me, I would definitely say very much a very clear scope of what is going to happen and when it's going to happen. The only time I haven't had good experiences is when things don't go as scheduled and there's a lot of kind of lack of communication. So that's very important to me. If I was to be working with an agency of any type, would be the communication. It may also be because that's kind of where I learned that and I started, and I knew that's what my clients wanted back then.
Yeah.
And I think kind of a balance of listening a lot to the client about what their brand stands for, what their voice is, all of that. That's the only other time I've never had like a good experience, is when it feels like the agency was trying to tell me what our brand was versus listening to us.
Yeah.
And it just never mixed. And then we ended up always just doing it ourselves. And so I think that would be definitely a big thing.
It's wild how many times I hear that same story.
It's
They
happened.
tell us what they think, and then we end up doing it ourselves. That's frustrating.
Yeah, that's happened to me several times throughout my career, and it is, and I would love to kind of like find that really good partner, but I do think it has to be like the right fit. It's a relationship, so it needs to be a really good fit, not just like a one-off type of thing.
Yeah, no, that's a big topic. Shifting gears again. This is like kind of,
Back and forth.
yeah, but you're organized, so it's okay.
Yes, it works. I can jump back and forth. No worries.
Without getting into specific numbers, but instead, can you share your perspective or kind of your playbook developed over time about the art or the science of budgeting? So just imagine you're coming to a brand new fiscal or year and you got a blank template in front of you. Like, how do you put yourself in the right mindset to do budget allocation? How do you think about that as a topic?
Yeah.
Not getting into the details of your.
Yeah, of course. So for that, I am looking a lot at the data. And I know sometimes that's hard for some companies because there might be some pushback of like, well, we need to do trade shows. I know trade shows are the thing, but I'm going to go and I'm going to look at the data. And maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing. And I look at where the source is. Again, what are the things that are driving pipeline? What are the things that are closing deals? Like, it might drive a lot of pipeline, but if it's not closing that much, then that's not good pipeline.
Right.
So I'm really looking at that. So when I look at it at every level, at MQL level, SQL, opportunity, and then closed one, looking at it all the way through. And I think that's the important thing, is then we allocate things accordingly. If ads are driving more, then we'll do the ads. If webinars are driving more, we do more webinars. We don't just throw it all in one bucket. It's still each of the categories, but it helps us to determine where our focus should be, and not just in financial budget, but in time budget too. What should our team be budgeting their time on more? Because webinars don't really cost that much. If you're already using Zoom, you're good to go. But it's a big time lift for the team. So we look kind of at both. What can we do that way? That's
great. Have you ever found yourself in situations currently with Protenus or in the past where there has been moments where you don't have the benefit of the empirical evidence or the historical data, but you want to make a gut decision on something you haven't tried yet at all? How do you go about deciding, hey, let's do something that is uncharted territory for us, and have enough courage to do that, and then
Yeah. Well, I think it says a lot about the organization if you feel comfortable
Yeah, you're
doing that.
mentioning that, right?
Yeah. So like this organization, I felt the same way Terry Con, very like, let's try new and exciting things. Different, fun and quirky, maybe in-person events or something like that. But outside of our comfort zone. And I think when you go into that, you have your regular budget, time or money, and then from there, setting a strat, coming to it with a strategy. What are the things that are going to go into this, and then a goal, a very clear goal of how many leads you want from that, not kind of going into it arbitrarily. And then I'll also use, if I don't have any data to like historical data, I might go and probably do some research and see like what would a good conversion rate be on some type of event like this. So setting those goals so that like everyone's on the same page about what the success is, because it could also just be a brand awareness thing. And then, but I don't want my team to think it's brand awareness and another team think it's supposed to be leads,
Good point.
because then we're not in sync about what success is. So we all just need to be on the same page about what success is for this new first try.
Right. You mentioned other teams there. So I obviously understand that there's a tight integration between the sales team and the marketing team, but is there any other integration that you facilitate on behalf of your team, other departments, other, just C-level people? Tell me about that.
So we work very closely with our C-level in general, because I am so in the data and analyzing all that. So work with them, which I love the fact that they want this data and they want to understand it and they want to apply it. I feel like I'm very lucky to have.
You are. There's not
team.
many marketing directors get that seat at the table, and so.
Yeah, so I'm very grateful for that. But I work a lot with our customer success team or customer experience team as well. We have a great user community. So how I work with them to see like, can they maybe leverage some of the tools we have to fulfill their projects or reach customers. We work very closely, especially when we're doing campaigns of like, what customers should we reach out to about this? And then we work closely with our people ops, which would be maybe HR at other companies, about doing like promotion and also culture type internal marketing as well. So
that's great. That's pretty holistically integrated, I would say.
I mean,
as compared to some of my other conversations.
Yes, I didn't mention earlier, but I'm also an adjunct professor at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and I teach marketing, and that is one of the very first things I always tell the students is marketing should not live in just marketing ever. Like all the students, whether finance, accounting, IS, whatever, they all have to take my class, and I'm like, I don't care who you are, you will do some type of marketing or you will work with marketing if it's done well. So everyone is a little bit of a marketer. At all times.
I think that's great. Keep fighting that fight, because I
will keep telling that story.
So I want to leave you with this one, because I mean, it's the Growth League podcast. It's about growth. And in this case, it's about getting your unique and awesome experiences and perspectives and curating them or sharing them with others. But for you personally, what is an area, or maybe the area, that you just really, really want to improve in personally as a marketer and marketing leader specifically now? You've identified it as being kind of a gap or something that you want to improve, but what excites you about what the future holds and areas of improvement for yourself?
Yeah, so I think one area I'm excited, which I feel like it's probably said a lot, is AI for marketing. Like I said, we're a small but powerful team. But with that, we need to leverage the tools out there as best as possible. So leveraging some type of AI to make our lives all easier and more efficient. And then also, I think I'm most excited right now for, like, in regards to our projects, with probably some of the account-based marketing that we're doing. We're really diving into that a lot. We use a tool called roleWorks, and I have to really use HubSpot, Salesforce, roleWorks, using all these systems to target our customers when they've basically are raising their hand, and not directly to us, but we have all this data out there, and finding ways to respond to them in a non-creepy way, that when we see that they're taking that action, that there is interest from their company, but using it also like effectively. So I think those are the big things. AI is definitely one, though, that we're focused on.
Well, you used the word exciting, and I think it is exciting because it's just obviously the beginning of a new frontier, right? And the best marketing departments, best marketing systems are going to be the ones that marry data with courage and creativity and all these other art components of the role. So Brianna, thank you for sharing your experience and your perspective. I think that once again, I've heard wildly different answers to the same questions, and this is the purpose of the show. And so thank you for spending the time.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I could talk for another hour.
Me too. If I don't put time limits on it, we do go for 2 hours. So
yes.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.